Well, you've got a very inspiring story. I know you wanted to share. Let's talk about that and how you were able to overcome adversity during your time in the boxing ring.
Yeah, my story is being around boxing and wrestling and doing it for years. When I was in my, I think it was like 40s, I think it was in my early 40s, I ended up getting a detached retina in my left eye. And I didn't even know it was detached at the time. I was at the gym sparring one day and I got hit with a shot. I was home that night watching TV and I started getting some flashing in the eye, but I wasn't familiar. I mean, I heard of detached retinas, but I wasn't all that familiar with them. So I didn't do anything about it right away. And then as time went by, I noticed that my eyesight was starting to get worse in my left eye. So I got myself an appointment to see an eye doctor. And he looked at my eye and he says, "This thing is so severely detached, you're gonna have to go in for emergency surgery." He says, "You're never gonna walk into a boxing ring or a pro wrestling ring ever again." So I mean, this was like a real shock to me because I've been doing this stuff for years, like probably 20 years at this point. And I went to see the eye surgeon after that, and he took me in like the next day. He goes because it was emergency surgery, so he had operated on me right away, and it was to the point where they couldn't even do laser surgery. It was too far gone, so I had to go under the knife. I went for this procedure called vitrectomy, and what they have to do is they have to go behind the eye to operate, and they take all the gel out of your eye, and then they put a gas bubble in there, and so for the first couple of days you can't see anything, and then eventually as that bubble proceeds to go down a little bit, each and every day you can see a little bit more until it's gone. But then right away you can't even lift like a carton of milk out of the refrigerator. You can't put it because you'd be putting pressure on the eye. When I get up in the morning, I have to put my head down for a while so that it could heal right. And the one problem with that too, Stanley, is if you get a scar tissue in there, then they have to go in and operate again. And then if you get scar tissue, then you end up losing the eye. So I got that, so I actually made a full recovery from that, which I was lucky. Some people get a detached retina and they can't really, a lot of them can't see for life. So after that, I wasn't gonna. I figured, well, everything's over the contact sport, so combat sport. So I didn't do anything for it except I always worked out, and I've always done hard physical labor most of my life too. So I was always keeping myself in shape that way. And then I started hearing about this, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was starting to come around a little bit at the time. And I said, I could probably try this because it's just grappling. It's not going to be like, I'm not taking shots to the head, uh, taking drop kicks to the head or whatever. So I figured it'd be a little bit safer. So I started doing that. And then one day, um, Gabriel Gonzaga I was training with this company called Team Link. And Gabriel Gonzaga was a UFC fighter, and he trained with Team Link. And so, anyways, he had a fight coming up with Shane Carwin for the UFC, and my trainer, who's also Gonzaga's trainer and manager, said, "Paul, I want you to be his sparring partner for the fight." And so I went over there. I figured I was just going to be grappling with him. So I went there one day, and he threw me the boxing gloves. And I didn't want to say no because it was, a good opportunity for me to be this guy's sparring partner. I mean, this guy was ranked number one in the world. He fought Randy Couture for the heavyweight title. And so then I started boxing with him and doing some grappling, but they were usually mainly just for the boxing. And but I didn't have any problems. I didn't bother my eyes with that or anything. I had no more injuries to my eyes at the time when I was sparring with him. He's actually a really good guy. But then after that, I was back in the boxing gym. I said, I'll give it a shot again. And then the next thing you know, I got a detached retina on my right eye. And I knew about it right away because when I got those flashes, then I knew. And I went for a surgery and but they caught it before they had to give me the major surgery, the vitrectomy. But they did this thing called the freeze on it, which is pretty painful, and they set it. But then a couple of days later, it popped out again, and then they did another, I think another freeze, and it popped out again. Then they did laser, and it popped out again. And so on this right eye, finally they got to the point where they had to give me the major surgery again. So that was my fifth detached retina. By the time I had my fifth one, they had to give me the grand surgery, the vitrectomy. So then I had one eye surgery here on my left, and I had five detached retinas on my right eye, one on my left and five on my right. And so then I said, wow. Now I'm really messed up. Really messed
Wow.
up. I should have listened to the doctor the first time, but I was stubborn. So, anyways, I just kept working out and training, and with the weights and stuff, and trying to stay in shape. And then I said, well, you know what? I'll just go to the gym. Maybe I'll go back to the boxing gym and I'll just do body shots. I won't take any more headshots. So I'm in there doing body sparring all the time. But when you get in there throwing combinations, it's a natural thing where people are going to start throwing shots to your head, not intentionally, but it can happen. And then I had a fight in Massachusetts probably 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. I had an exhibition, and then when I moved to Pennsylvania, I was checking out celebrity boxing. I said, I could do one match with them. And so I did, and I fought in Atlantic City. But this was headshots and body shots. This was everything. And luckily, nothing happened to my eyes. But I just wanted to come back, just because I was just determined, to get on the big stage and do it, like Atlantic City on pay-per-view. It was a great experience for me. I did a couple of press conferences in Philly and Celebrity Boxing. They're a good organization to fight for, and I'm glad I did it. And my eyes. I just went to get my eyes checked last month, and they're doing good right now. So I'm pretty happy with that. But I just think my story's like just a determination and be resilient, determined, and when you have a dream, even though people tell you you can't do it, if you persevere and you work hard, you can still do it. And now I
Yeah.
want to get back, and now I'm thinking, I was supposed to actually have another fight for celebrity boxing in Pittsburgh. It was supposed to actually happen April 12th, but Le'Veon Bell was going to be in the main event. He used to play for the Steelers, and now he's a pro boxer. But the fight didn't pan out, and then the card got dropped. And then they were telling me, I was talking to the owner, Damon Feldman. He told me they were going to possibly come out in this fall, and so I was pretty pumped about that. I was going to get 100, 200 people to come see me. I was getting the word out there, and I was going to have a player from the Steelers walk me in the ring. First it was going to be Larry Ogunjobi, but then he just got traded to. He got picked up by the Bills at the beginning of the season, and I was going to have another player, Calvin Anderson, do it. And so it was going to be a big thing here for Pittsburgh and for myself. But you know, when they go to put something together, it's not always a guarantee. It's always possibilities of things falling through. It's just a business. It can happen with wrestling, boxing, or whatever, anything else. That's why on the card when they do fight cards on the posters and the flyers, it always says cards subject to change because you never know what's going to happen. And sometimes things get canceled, and sometimes they get canceled right at the last minute. It's just the nature of the beast. But life goes on, and I'm not going to let it deter me from doing what I want to do. Like I said, I still want to be in the ring. I just like being out there in front of the people and doing my thing.
Yeah, and so you were able to overcome so much adversity, had to get all those surgeries and you were able to put the work in and had a few fights and you're still going strong now. So there is something to be said about that, picking yourself back up from being on the ground. And so kudos to you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're feeling, down about something, what are some things that are motivational for you to keep on going?
Well, everybody in life is going to feel down at some point. I don't care how successful they are. The thing about life is there's going to be good days and bad days. Everything can't be good all the time. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I realized when I get older. Nothing, and when you have a bad day or something bad happens, a lot of times something good can come from that. That's what I really believe. Um, it's like too much of a good thing is not good. It's like I like lobster, but I don't want to eat it every night. Too much of a good thing isn't all that good either. But everybody's gonna have disappointments, and there's times when you're gonna feel down. There's gonna be times you feel like quitting. But you just got to keep going. You got to just find. You got to be strong. Find your inner strength and just keep going. And you know that things are gonna get better as long as you stay on course. Just never give up. That's part of my story. Just never give up and just believe in yourself. And then sometimes you're gonna feel weak. Everybody does. But the strength will come back. Just stay focused.